Good morning, everyone. We've got a forum and I will call the meeting to order of the July 24th, 2024 reinvestment zone meeting. Are there any public comments? Thank you. Next item is consider approval of minutes from the meeting held on May 29th, 2024. Motion, second. And any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Now we'll move to the agenda: review current projects under construction, review of projects and design, review of future projects, and turn it over to Steve.
We've got a pretty light agenda, mainly because of two items. One is that we've been working on the master plan, which Bob's going to touch on a little bit as a project. Well, not even a project group, just another committee. And also just because of tornadoes, we didn't have a meeting in this last month. So we do have a significant item. Four items we're going to touch on is these four. But the most significant is that top one, which is the Lorraine Drive. As you know, we had moved that project. We flopped it with the old Howard so that we could get this thing out and bid. And as you know, it's already rough cut, got a sewer and water sitting along that yellow line at the top. And Green Data, as you know, is already out there up and running. We had two funding lines. One was for the construction admin, the other one for construction. So as he moves into the agenda, the construction administration for 271,700 is item number 4. And the actual construction, we had a $5 million budget. And we are really happy to see that it came in at $3,554,283 with Emerson. And as you all know, Emerson's been doing a lot of the projects from the zone, and they are just Johnny on the spot. And I really believe they've done a great job. These are the really, again, you always know you're going to get a good number when you get this many people who are interested in bidding it. So it gives you a little bit that people are starting to need work. Again, Emerson was lowest bidder, which is real good. Had a good group of people in there. And we're always happy when both our funding line and our OPC is the highest bidder. So David, congratulations for being the highest bidder. That's
Next to highest.
Next to
Scott did it was hard.
Oh yeah, you had one person.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You know, that makes you feel good that we're in an environment, you know, that our OPCs are actually that good. So we will be voting on those two items when they come up in the agenda.
Do you know why we had so much participation? Was it just?
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a project that wasn't zoned that bid right before this. That was the 24th Street overpass in the same area. And we were really struggling to get bidders. This project is very, very clean. TDC, as most people are aware, owns all the property around it. It's already rough cut, and you know, right now Lorraine Drive heading east stops at Panda Drive, and so this project will have no public traffic on it. Plenty of lay down room. A very, very clean project, and so they're not dealing with any traffic control or issues with tight construction areas. They can just kind of blow and go. And so we were very excited to have 10 bidders, and, you know, happy that Emerson got it. We've been doing quite a few projects with them and very happy that they got it. But just the nature of how clean it is and how easy it's going to be to construct, that's kind of what we're seeing is, you know, we still have a ton of construction going on in our area. But if you have a very, very clean project, you know, here they come. They all want to come to the party.
Any other questions on that project? Next one, I'm gonna have David give this. Again, not really anything that's been brought to the project committee just because we didn't have a meeting, but they've had a couple issues out at the downtown city center. If you've driven around that, this project is going really good right now. Finally, everything around the Han is down, and so I do believe David's able to kick this project off. There is a change order number 5. And why don't you just give us a little bit of a heads up on this, David? Tell us what it is.
Yes, really, there are two things involved with this change order. As John said, we're to the point where you've seen the scaffolding and most of the things coming down out of the way so that we can really progress with this project. This is phase two of this project. In phase one, we did, the utilities. But we were limited on how far we could take that. In a meeting with this, it was determined, the best solution for connection of those utilities to the Han, Arcadia, and Sears was to incorporate it into our project, connect those to the building. That way, with the construction that we're going to be doing with the sidewalks, landscaping, and all the amenities that we'll have down there, much like we have at First Street, those will be done by RT Schneider Construction Company under the zone project and be incorporated in that so that all the elevations, all of the connections, all of the items will seamlessly go in. That's a piece of this. We can jump to the next slide. The bigger piece of it.
Is this all water line and waste line connections?
It's water lines, water meters, and wastewater lines, and fire lines.
So each one of the boxes is a connection that is incorporated into it?
Correct.
And the second part,
The more interesting part of this, because again, like I said, the garage is finished and we did phase one, and we really didn't have any groundwater issues, and it wasn't shown when we did our bores. I've got a video that's coming up. This second piece is a French drain that's going to go halfway between the block between 4th and 6th. And then our only outlet to that, once we capture that groundwater, is to take it to the inlets that are by the fire station on Avenue A. So about an 800-foot run of French drain to intercept that groundwater.
and that's the dotted green line.
It is a dotted
You were
green line
correct.
that we're calling out. And we did throw a little video in here just to kind of illustrate what we're dealing with. We are at a point, you'll see this here in a second, where water's bubbling out of the ground and physically flowing groundwater. And like I said, didn't experience this in phase one when we did all the trenches for the utilities, didn't experience it at the parking garage when we were drilling deep piers. Nature of what we're experiencing with all the wet weather that we're having this year. And it was to a point, we actually thought this might be a leaking water line, tested it several times for chlorine residual to make sure it was not. But in order to maintain the integrity of the brand new pavement we're going to build, we need to put this French drain in, or I'll never be able to get that subgrade to where it needs to be without having failure. So we've figured out a way to get a French drain in there, and not just Temple, but every downtown in Texas we work with. They were built at a time where underground storm sewer didn't exist. And so most of it's surface drainage. And when you have that, you have groundwater, since you're capturing that below ground, you have to have a place to take it. And so we've got to take it all the way to Avenue A, which will have the first opportunity to dump that into an underground system in an inlet, and then take it down to the creek.
And that will be on your agenda, item 6, and it's a change order number 5 to RT for $302,377, and it has both of those items in the change order. The next is something I'm going to hand over to Bob.
Yeah.
Before you go, so does that change order put us over budget on that line item, or?
No, and I'm trying to see Tracy, but I think we're just under 300,000 still to the good on that one. And just as a note, we've also found an undocumented underground storage tank at the professional building that we're going to have to deal with. There's a process for that, but as we're moving, every time you do something, surprises everywhere.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah, and so we have to go through a process of testing the soil as required by TCEQ to make sure there are no petrochemical products there. Looking at it, we don't think that's been used in probably 80 years plus. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, but we are going to have to remove it in accordance with state law.
It's in the road?
It is right at the edge of the road near the professional building, right near the alley between 2nd and 4th.
I think there's actually 2 answer your question. There's TBREs and
Yes. And we found another one where TBRE found it on 4th Street, but they're handling that one as it's their buildings.
Yeah, sorry for all the questions, but the road, do you have a date at when you think that those roads around the Han are gonna be drivable?
Sort of. So right now we push the project's in September with the schedule. All the rain is not helping. We had subgrade done at the base done on 2nd Street. And then yesterday came and we're going to get the opportunity to redo that. Because once it rains, we lose the integrity of that base and we have to go back and reprocess it. take densities again and re-proof roll it. I'm guessing that now that that's all open, we got to get the underground storage tank removed. That's in the way, on Central between Second and Fourth. That area, if I had to guess, is we're looking at, September, probably when that's done. And if I just, and we need rain to stop. I know everybody here is loving the rain, but our projects are hating the rain. But I would say September, probably then, and then probably looking at October in all reality, complete Fourth and have the project done.
Are those storage tanks hooked to the buildings somehow? I mean, can you get to the storage tank from the buildings?
So most of them have been severed. When we find these, and not just here, but most old historic downtowns, they're old fuel tanks, and a lot of times kerosene, that's what they used to heat the building. But as time has progressed and the buildings have been upgraded, they sever them and have, standard heating that we have today. So it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for them to be undocumented. If you recall, Santa Fe Plaza, we found some massive ones over there that we had to take out. So we may not be done. We're, every time we dig something up over there, we find something new.
How big is the one you're dealing with now?
Oh, it's probably a 120 gallon tank.
It's not super.
It's sizable. And and there are rules even to the point with TCEQ, like RT Schneider can't remove it. It has to be a licensed contractor through TCEQ to remove the underground storage tank. Yeah, so we have to test the soil, submit the report on how much petrochemicals in there, and there are limits on whether you have to do remediation. We don't feel like that's going to be an issue looking at it. And then we have to have a licensed contractor. So it's a process.
In the master plan, there's an item that to approve, KPA and study to do the work on it, and we've already begun that whole process working on the master plan. Started several months ago on it, and thankful for the great master plan committee we have. Jessica, Tyler, John, Bo, Bryn, Tracy, Melissa, KPA people. And what we've been doing over the last few months is receiving presentations from a number of stakeholders in the community. We've identified 30-something organizations that we're going to receive presentations from. We received over half of them with Temple ISD, Belton ISD, Temple College, Encore, CAC, Atmos, and some others. And then we have some more scheduled out. That'll probably take us several more months to do all that. And then in addition to that, John has already started developing some big maps and quadrants of the city to start looking at potential projects for the master plan. So that's where we are on that. And I assume it'll be just like the last master plan. It'll probably take another year to get through all the presentations, as we're getting updates, start looking at projects, we'll bring updates to the board.
That's item number 8 on the agenda when we get to it also. And then one last item that we're going to vote on is getting David working on the site certifications. They're a good 5-6 years old at least, and this document's from the 19, but I think that was actually when you completed it. So really some pretty old certifications. So it's worth taking a look at every single project or property we have out there and just recertifying it and going through it and taking a lot of the new properties as we're moving to the north and stuff in Synergy Park and adding them to the whole deal. So he has that is item number 9. It's for $74,000. It's just to again update the current list of properties we have and add any new ones as we're moving on.
That's money really well spent. EDC is having those sites certified and being able to say they're actually shovel ready or really big deal.
Are there any new items in the certification world that we didn't do in 19 that we need to do now to really make those top of the line?
There are some new items that are out there, especially with some of the abilities that we have now with the drones.
Yeah.
That's currently not included in the scope of work. And there's some pretty significant costs when you do that, and the data gets huge. One of the thoughts that we had is if we decide to go that route, you'd be selective on some of your premier sites and do it with that. Certainly some scope we can have. I know that, matter of fact, I got a call yesterday from Tom over at TDC.
Mhm.
One of the clients wanted, drone LiDAR, both photometrics and the surface data that we had done on Site 64. And so I could instantly just, because we had done it for many reasons over there already, and so I could just send it to them. So it seems like a lot of the site selectors and the companies, if you have that data and you can, he asked for it at 2, the guy had it by 3.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a very, several here on the TDC board, but that seems to be a very popular thing with both the site selectors as well as the companies. If they can get that data immediately, have those up-to-date photometrics, so they can see what it is, and then and they're much clearer than what you can see on Google Earth or Near Maps or any of those programs, because we're taking them at maximum 300-foot shots. But then also you have very accurate LiDAR surface data that they can have as well. So that would probably be the biggest one that we didn't have in these, just because that technology wasn't there. But again, because of the cost, and we're happy to do whatever this group and TDC wants to do. But if you had premier sites, hey, let's do this one, I would recommend that.
What's a 100-acre site gonna, what did it cost being able to shoot each one? 100 acre.
100 acres is probably 10-12,000.
So you take how much we got out there, it's a considerable number, but we could look at that.
We probably ought
Just kind of step through them over a period of multiple
Yeah,
years.
then probably grade them on which ones
Yeah.
are gonna be, could be up next. There's some out there that we're not bought that we don't really have all the data we need anyway, streets and water and sewer, but stuff all along that loop and that we probably should look at. You guys know what a LiDAR is? You know what how that is, it shoots it when you've got a digital copy of the whole thing. Right now, ours is just paper copies. They're digital and not something that you can send to an engineer and do the whole project almost off of it. So
probably gotta talk to Adrian to see what his priorities would be.
Absolutely.
you can get it done pretty quickly though, even as when he calls, right? How long does it take to, if they requested one, good weather, and get authorization to fly? How long does it take?
We usually have it in 5 to 7 working days. We'll have the photometrics along with all of the surface data where we can send it out. And it's pretty massive. I mean, it's gigs of data, depending on the size of the property.
Sure.
It might be worth too, just out of professional services, just have a head nod from this board to say if something comes up.
Yeah.
Go
Do it.
Adrian wants it, go do it.
Yeah.
Backfill it.
Just make sure we got that money in professional services enough to be able to do a couple every time. We look at that financing plan. Make sure we haven't dwindled it down to where we'd have to have a, financing amendment. And then, this is what the actual thing that they put online so you can grab it, and then really just talks about the site. In that stamp down there is what's really important to them, and let national engineers saying, look, we're certifying that all this stuff is done. For those not on the board, we started this, or haven't been on board, we started this, I'm trying to remember how long ago. It's been really like,
I want to say 2012.
yeah. So quite a long time ago, we looked at other states, we went across all the states, all the different cities, anybody who has done one. And we raised the standard above anything we could find as far as the site certification. So when we looked at it, it just had come out that people were really requesting it, and we set up our own.
The really like
format.
standard is what
Yeah,
a certified site was, so we just decided, let's go to the very highest we can.
And for the EDC, most of those projects are elimination projects. Like you're on the list until you get taken out.
Yeah.
And then they don't even talk to you unless you're in the top 5 or 10. So unless you can keep yourself on the list through something like this, then you just don't even get a chance to look at it.
and they're able to go look at your sites, and they pull this, they can pull this without us ever knowing it. Really can't think of it. Think. Don't want to say they can pull it without us knowing it, but anyway, that is really all we have. We'll tell you one of the good things that we will present a little bit more next month is that we're really far into Old Howard. I believe David's handed in a 30% set. I was just looking at it the other day. He's got that into engineering to take a look at that. So we're hoping for that to be done in our next funding year so that we can actually kick that project off. The EDCs, you know, all the land that they have bought out there, they are taking houses down. So almost all the houses that have been bought in that quadrant are down, septic tanks taken out, any issues in trash, everything hauled off. So as we start to move towards up Howard, the end of the year here, we're going to kick that project off, which is, I think, as important as the Lorraine Drive. So those are really the two projects. Yeah, there's really one other project that we've all worked on, which is Santa Fe Community Center down. That is ready to go. We bid it and just had a couple little issues on the filing and what they brought in. So we're gonna have to rebid that project. So those are all the three big projects that we have that are coming out, is that the community center, the community market, the Old Howard and Lorraine. Those are really our three big dollar projects we got going right now. So
And funding the land purchases that we've done, and those are progressing, so. I guess
that's my,
That's on,
seven, Brandon's gonna talk about it for now. Any questions, John, before we consider the items? If not, I'll start reading them in then. Three, consider recommendation of city council authorizing an increase of $63,266 to the estimated annual expenditure for construction material testing allocated under the fiscal year 2024 services agreement with Langham Engineering Company LLC of Waco related to the Lorraine Avenue Street and utility improvements project. That just ends up, that's an estimated allowance amount that we're just materials testing that required to do on the project.
So did we just not have enough built into the project, or is there some additional testing required, or?
I think this is just the way it's handled as a separate, not part of the,
we have enough money built
OPC, we
in.
have enough money built in.
We got to give them the contract.
You gotta give them the contract outside of it, yeah.
We separate that from the contractor. You don't let.
That can be done by the.
Separate it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
motion approved.
motion approved, second?
Second.
Second by Lester. Any discussion, questions? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is number 4, consider recommendation that city council authorize contract amendment number 3, professional services agreement to Casper Patrick Associates LP for the bidding construction phase services for Synergy Park improvements, Lorraine Avenue utilities extension project, and the estimated amount of $271,700.
Move for approval.
Okay, motion, second?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 5, consider recommendation to the city council to authorize a construction contract with Emerson Construction Company, Inc. for the construction of the Synergy Park, Lorraine Avenue utility improvements and the estimated amount of $3,554,283. Have a motion? Motion? Second, Bo, discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None, motion carries. Next item, number 6, consider recommendation to city council authorizing change order number 5 to the downtown contractor RT Schneider Construction Company Limited of Belton, the downtown city center phase 2 project, the estimated amount of $302,377.50. So, we have a motion? Okay, motion, second? Second, Thomas? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Oh, same sign. Motion carried. Next item is number 7, and we have some special guests here.
Today is our city's Take Your Kids to Work Day. So I do have a couple of little helpers that have joined me today. This is my son Troy and my daughter Preston.
Preston, welcome.
Morning.
Nice to meet you.
So the item that you have before you is a contract that we're requesting you consider recommending to city council. If the board will recall several years ago, when the Shops on the Hill was developed, the developer put in the lights per the TMED standards at the time. That was the first iteration that we had of TMED standards, and I'm trying to think of a way to say this, but the developer built to the letter of the code, which did not at that time require them to put in conduit or electricity to the lights. So they installed the lights, but there was no electricity to the lights. So after several, we have explored, staff has explored several options over the years to try to come up with a cost-effective way to deal with that. That wasn't incredibly disruptive of tearing up a bunch of pavement and sidewalks that had been installed. And so the proposal that we believe is the most cost-effective way to deal with this. The board may recall that we did at some point have a larger project on 31st Street that we were looking at. So we paused our work to see if maybe the larger project was, an opportunity to take care of that. But because that looks like it's going to be, into the future, we would recommend considering solar lighting at this point, which would be just over $70,000, would be very minimal disruption to the surrounding infrastructure and would allow those lights to light up. So that is what we're
Is that per
requesting.
light? There's just a solar panel per light, each one?
You know what, that I do believe so. Yeah, it just attaches, it's just an attachment to the pole.
To the ones that don't work.
It's just the ones in front of Shops on the Hill. It's not the ones in front of the district and development or any other place in Tina.
Out of your government, lighting are doing it. So if you go into the VA, you can see that that's out there, all of theirs are.
Just the pedestrian lighting.
But it's not another pole.
No, it's
Yeah,
not a
so we're
separate
not,
pole.
yeah, we're not gonna.
We're just energizing.
Resets. Yes.
If you're gonna do that, you just go do it.
We're trying to avoid digging up anything or any extensive, the other options we looked at were hundreds of thousands of dollars, so. This would come out of the maintenance line item. If approved.
Probably
Good solution.
That's a good solution. Add another. I was thinking we'd have another third set.
We already have 3 sets of poles, so we're trying to not do that.
You had that you would end up having to run conduit to them. It's the same thing. It has to be on each light, I would think. Yeah.
Thank you, good job to the city staff for figuring out a solution.
I agree, thank you.
Good, item number 7, consider recommendation city council to authorize the purchase of solar pedestrian lighting to be installed along South 31st Street from, what is that you pronounce there? Lighting company, Fonranchi Lighting American, utilizing by board, contract number 7524, in the amount of $70,100.
Make a motion.
Motion, no second? Second by Bo. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, number 8, consider recommending city council professional services agreement with Casper Patrick Associates LP, prepare master plan for the Temple Investment Zone for planning the year 2040 in the amount of $248,000.
Motion for approval.
A motion?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, number 9. Consider recommendation city council to authorize professional services agreement with Casper Patrick Associates LP for updating the property site certifications and maps that were completed with the 2019 investment zone site certifications in the amount of $74,000. I have a motion to approve. Motion Thomas, second? Second. Fowler? Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item, number 10, receive an update from TNC, which I don't believe that we're going to have one today. Next time, receive a project update from city manager.
Morning again. So I did want to just provide a brief update on the storm recovery efforts. As the board knows, we brought in a contractor to help us with storm debris recovery, D&J Enterprises. They have done a great job, and we are almost done with the collection effort. So we anticipate being done by the end of this month, with the vast majority of the work. The debris management sites will continue, so where they're actually burning the debris over near the landfill, that will continue beyond the end of the month, because that work is slower than the collection efforts. And then we've also, some of the very large tree roots are still remaining to be collected because the couple of reasons. One, there's a federal government requirement that for those trees that uprooted either in a park or a right of way, we have to get an archaeological study done before we can remove those. And then there's some special equipment for the size of those tree root balls. So we are going to make sure we have all of the clearance needed, and then bring in that equipment and collect everything at one time. So even the things that are in the that are from private property that we don't have to have that archaeological clearance, those will be collected with that same equipment. We are back on track with residential and commercial regular collections. We did bring in some temporary equipment to help us get back on track. And so we're, I think, in a good spot there. From a permit standpoint, we had an incredible surge, as you might imagine, of permits, especially around roofing. We had, I think, over 3,000 roofing permits last month that we've worked through. We've brought in temporary staffing resources to help us work through that. If you're one of our local builders, I apologize in advance for the delays. And as you know, always call me if you need help with getting something processed. It's just an incredible volume of work that we're working through. In terms of projects, other than what you highlighted today for the reinvestment zone, some other general fund funded projects, I would just note that the last phase of Kegley has been awarded by council and is set to start very soon. So we've got obviously a lot of projects going on in West and really South and East Temple as well. But that's probably the largest one that'll kick off. Another project that will be started soon is 24th Street overpass in East Temple. That'll be set for reconstruction and will close for about I believe it's around a 9-month period while that's under construction. So any questions?
With respect to the storm,
Yes, sir.
has there been a tabulation of an estimate of how many millions, hundreds of $1 million of damage was incurred within the city from the storm?
We are working on that. I don't have that. I do know that just the cleanup from just the storm debris is $5 million. We do anticipate getting reimbursed for 75% of that. As you probably know, we've had FEMA in to help individuals get assistance, and those who've gone to the on-site there at the school have reported. We've gotten good feedback from those that have uninsured or underinsured losses, but we are working on a citywide tabulation. I anticipate it would be a very large number.
Yeah.
You're asking our insurance adjuster, they've got to hand those numbers in.
Right.
And they figure it's somewhere in there.
Not surprising.
They,
Yeah, the adjuster said, man, within 24 hours, we gotta put a reserve out there. So
Yeah.
every insurance company does that, so
Right.
so very quickly, they've got a pretty good scope of what the numbers of insured.
ours is one with like 12, so if you think about that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty widespread.
There was obviously there was an incredible concentration of damage in West Temple, but there's also just very widespread damage where, maybe it's not significant, but there's everyone got a little bit of something. So it was very widespread.
It's been a surprising point to me. Customers have had damage that just visually doesn't appear that they had much damage, but they got a $200,000 roof blown off or something that you don't really see.
We've had some roads that they looked at, went up there and it was fine, but they would grab it and you could pick the
Yes.
whole roof.
Exactly.
It just, so it looked like it was perfect, but if the wind got up under it, just picked it up, dropped it back down. Shingles, that's crazy.
I think probably our next iteration is fences. I've seen people tackle their roofs first, obviously, for obvious reasons. And so there's still just just driving around, you just notice that I think there's still gonna be a lot of fence debris coming out and then repairs to fences coming. Not that that hasn't already started, but I think we'll see even more of that.
You able to give us an update on the budget where you are in that process?
Sure.
I'm sure there are
Yeah.
challenges with inflation and all that stuff.
Yeah, it has been a difficult year. So we filed the budget, at the end of the month. We're anticipating the certified roll any day now. So we do hope to get it in the next couple of days. I think that the appraisal district was impacted by the Microsoft, CrowdStrike, issue. So, it's a couple of days later than we had hoped, but, yes, a couple of things related to our budget. We have experienced inflationary impact, so just like all of us have in our businesses and households. The other note is that our sales tax revenue, the growth of sales tax revenue is slowing. So it's not declining, but we're not seeing the growth that we've experienced over the last few years. And we've had some incredible growth over the last few years. So I don't want to sound any alarm bells, but it's just we have pretty much flatlined our sales tax. So and that is the number one revenue source for the general fund. So when you take the sales tax not growing at the level that we had anticipated previously, based on past forecasts, the inflationary impact of just everything costing more to do, just your normal services. The growth in residential is more concentrated in the reinvestment zone. That's a trend that we've been seeing over the last few years that is really striking this year. So most of our residential growth has happened within the reinvestment zone instead of without or outside. So that's kind of shifting what we had projected in terms of tax revenue. So council actually tabled the setting of the proposed tax rate last week just because we were very close to getting the certified roll. And so we'll revisit that on August 1st. But overall, a very flat year for us. We are really staying the course in what we're doing, but we're not really able to propose any kind of new or expanded programming. New positions relate primarily to solid waste and just adding the routes that the trucks are take a couple of years to get ordered. So we're staffing the trucks that we ordered last year that we'll be able to add routes, but really not a whole lot of new programming or new services that will be coming online. If the board desires, I would be happy to give a full presentation on the budget, and I will not take an hour, although I could easily take an hour. I would be happy to give a presentation next month or whenever you would like to see that.
And Tracy has something to add.
Oh, Tracy, that's online.
Yes, we did receive the certified roll. It was certified on Friday, not at 100%, meaning there's still a lot of properties under ARB review. And we received the actual roll on Monday, but we're still mining through all the data and hopefully have our tax rate calculations today or tomorrow.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, I have a question for you. I know there are opportunities for people that have been damaged. Certain percentages can get their taxes abated or lowered based on the percentage. So if you're talking about tens of millions of dollars, damage, and people file that, I think it has to be by mid-September. Do they factor that in any way to put an allowance for that in the tax rate?
I do know with Winter Storm Uri, they allowed that. There was, but I have not heard anything this year on the tornadoes and wind damage, but I can check into that for you.
No,
It's for sure.
It's
We've
for
already
sure
filed it.
you can do it. But I'm just wondering.
You take all the
You
projects.
take all the projects, how that would affect
What's
your,
the word?
yeah. Just wonder how it would affect the tax revenue. So, anyway,
Great. Tracy, this is Tyler. Can you send a couple times that maybe you, me, and Gary and Melissa can get together just on the financing plan with that certified roll?
Yes. I will. And again, as every year, and it seems more complicated this year, we're still digging through, making sure everything's where it needs to be. and that they got everything on the roll that needs to be on the roll. But we will, yes, we will, Tyler.
Great, thank you.
As the board will recall, there's usually at least some, if not some extensive work that Tracy and Melissa need to do with the appraisal district once we actually get the certified roll to make sure that everything that needs to be coded to the reinvestment zone is coded correctly and that everything that has come online. HEB seems to be the issue this year. FedEx was the issue last year, is in there. So we give you accurate numbers.
Did Meta get on there yet? No, are they? Anything? that-
They probably have to. I don't think it's material yet, but they would have, you know, whatever the value that they had on January 1st would be, but because they didn't have a lot of vertical construction, I doubt it was appraised very significantly. Yeah.
Question on sales tax. You're able to determine whether or not it's just across the board, or is it specific related to construction material and sales tax on that, or is it just general retail?
So, you know, you always hear us talk about how we're blessed and that we have a diversified economy. And we think of that probably primarily related to property tax, thinking about, you know, our industrial park and all of the different types of industries that we've been able to attract. But that's the same can be said for sales tax. So unlike many of our neighboring communities that have very heavy retail focus on their sales tax, we actually have very significant diversity in construction materials, general retail type sales, even the work that's done in our industrial parks. If something that, you know, is under construction, if there's a large piece of equipment that's taxable, that's going to hit our sales tax numbers as well. So we haven't identified any one area that's causing the growth to slow. I think it's an overall combination of, you know, a little bit of a slowdown in construction. Some of the larger projects that were underway, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years have been completed. You know, we'll see impact still going forward. To note, data center equipment is exempt from sales tax at the state level. So that, you know, just depends on what kind of project it is about what kind of sales tax impact you'll get. And then I think some of the infusion of money to individuals from some of the COVID relief, you know, that had an impact on retail sales that may not be continuing in the future.
Bad news as it is, really, I'm excited about it, because when you're reading this across the country, that is showing us the slowdown that is now allowing us to get that interest rate back down. I mean, really, you're seeing the inflation, you know, in your numbers and the cost, but with that sales tax coming down, that's that pressure that they were looking for, so they can lower the rates here in September.
And I do want to reiterate that we're not seeing a decline. There's no need to panic. We had exceptional growth over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I think $15 million in sales tax growth over a 3 or 4 year period. So it's been a few good years. This is not a bad year. It's just not, you know, not as good as we've had some.
It's normal.
Yeah,
That's a good way to say that. Thank you.
And if I
really important.
I remember correctly from workshop last week, although our slowdown is, you know, it's a true slowdown, we're not impacted as much as our sister cities, kind of those that we compare to. Some of them are way down
Especially
compared to where they were last year.
Yes, sir. I think especially the ones that are really concentrated in retail.
Right.
They ride the ups and downs much more. They have to hang on.
Yeah,
Much
more of a
tighter.
roller coaster for those guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have a question for, would you like to see a overview of the budget at our next meeting? I think you did that last year, if I recall.
I think so.
Yeah.
Either at this meeting or maybe a project
Right.
meeting, but I think we
Yeah.
normally try to show, you know,
Yeah. Give us the, you know,
I'll do my best to give a cliff notes version.
click notes. There you go.
we'll see that
Okay, great.
Set aside an hour.
Yeah.
up. I'll try.
Thank you so much.
No popcorn.
Yeah. Okay, that's our agenda, and then the next item is, scheduled next meeting, which will be August the 28th. So thank you all very much for being here, and, we'll be adjourned.